Hi, welcome to SBRForum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are previewing the main card of UFC 161, and right now we are talking with Luca Fury and Nick Kalikas, both of MMAoddsbreaker.com, and MMAoddsbreaker.com has recently released a new premium service at their site. All right, now let's talk about Alexis Davis and Rosi Sexton. These are two females, obviously. Davis, a huge favorite, minus 380, and I guess that's all just because she's bigger and stronger. Both of them very good technically, but Davis has the edge in strength and size, I guess, and that's what's justifying this minus 380 line. Is that a little too big, Luca Fury? What do you think?
I actually think, if anything, this line is a little bit too low.
Okay.
I don't like to bet big favorites all that often,
Right.
but in addition, like you mentioned, to Davis being the bigger, stronger fighter, she's also the more skilled fighter in every single area, really. And in fact, Rosi Sexton's actually kind of like a poor man's version of Alexis Davis here. I think Davis is going to win this fight wherever it goes, and honestly, I expect her to dominate and probably get a finish pretty early on.
All right, Nick Kalikas, I know that in general you're pretty allergic to big favorites. What do you make of this big favorite line?
Well, I made it 380, and I honestly thought that most people would think is a little bit too high because Sexton does get a little bit of respect, and she deserves it. She's a great fighter, but the problem, as you mentioned already, Peter, she's out of her weight class here.
Yeah.
What's the UFC doing? I know they're bringing in girls, trying to plug in the 135 weight class, but at the same time, they're setting up the fights kind of smart for the people that I think they want to market and win. Alexis Davis has that marketability. She's a talented fighter. I think they're going to push eventually towards Ronda Rousey. A lot of people are kind of curious about that fight as well. So, I mean, there's a little line ahead, obviously, with Ronda Rousey right now, but Alexis Davis is definitely one of the girls that they can kind of gear towards that direction. So I think they're kind of in the last case with Sarah McMahon. They fed her Sheila Gaff. It was a bit bad matchup stylistically, and that's kind of what it is here as well. Sexton, the only way she could really win this fight is by grinding out Alexis Davis. On the feet, she's going to get outclassed big time by Davis. The jiu-jitsu is going to kind of cancel each other out a little bit, and the wrestling, she's not going to have that big advantage. So this is definitely a fight for Alexis Davis to come through here. So I do agree with Luca. I think if anything, it's hard to bet a 380 line straight,
Right.
but if you're looking to put somebody in a parlay, I think Alexis Davis might be the person that you're looking for.
Or what about maybe going for a Davis via sub, get a better line there?
And that's a little bit trickier because, like I said, Rosi Sexton is very good in BJJ as well. So even though Alexis Davis has looked phenomenal recently, especially her BJJ is off the hook, but I still think that might be a little bit trickier because Sexton isn't going to be as easy to submit as some of the other opponents she's recently had.
All right, Luca Fury, what do you think about maybe taking Davis by sub?
I don't believe there's a line on it yet, but when that comes out, that's something I'll definitely be interested in. Like I said, I think Rosie is kind of like a poor man's version of Davis and should be outclassed wherever it goes. You also look at Rosie, some of her recent fights, she's almost been submitted by some of her opponents. Alexis Davis is a better submission artist than those people she has fought. So I do think, like I said, it should probably be a stoppage here. Of course, it is going to depend on line. I mean, if you're still laying juice on that, at that point, probably wouldn't touch it. But if you can get it at even money, plus money, I do think inside the distance in some form would be the best, particularly by sub. But nonetheless, like Nick mentioned, I think that at worst case scenario, Alexis Davis is at least worth throwing in a parlay.
And I do agree with the inside the distance because I think it might be a TKO stoppage. Rosie's tough, but she has been stopped that way before. And Alexis Davis, I think, has that big of an edge on the feet as well. So I could see it. I guess if there's going to be a submission, I should say it would be Alexis Davis getting the sub. But I don't know. I have a feeling that Alexis is probably going to knock her out instead.
Right, and under 2.5 is just minus 125, so that's a very competitive line there. So that might be the best way to go, under 2.5. Is that what you think, Nick?
I think so. I think that it should be a little bit steeper as far as the price goes for the under right now. Again, the public already bet that line a little bit, so you might get a price there. And it's worth probably going a little bit under 125 as well, correct?
All right, I think we got it, under 2.5 at minus 125. Thanks, guys.